Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we're doing an exciting video discussing pressing pigments. As you might have seen on my Instagram, I recently made an order, actually two, one is in the mail coming to me, of Tammy Tanuka pigments. These are gorgeous, the multi-chrome and duochrome pigments, at least the ones that I chose. However, I purchased the sample size and they came in this little box. And they are loose pigments. Now, as much as I loved the shades I picked, I found myself not reaching for them at all, so I hadn't even tested some of them. And they were very, very difficult to apply in the sense that they really don't pick up on your fingers or on a brush without a glitter base or a pigment base. So I was finding it really difficult to use them and test them, so I decided to try to press them, and after having a try by myself, I bring to you today my method for pressing pigments. It's not all, as we say in Italy, flower from my own bag, but I have been doing this for a little bit. A few years ago, when I was in the US and I wasn't working, I tried to make my own eyeshadows and experimented a bit, and I came up with a little bit of a feeling for what works and what doesn't. So today I'm gonna show you that. Let's start by saying this is applicable for pigments and micans that do not contain binder already. So for example, MAC pigments already contain a binder. So MAC pigments you can press just by using alcohol from the drugstore. In the specific, it is isopropyl alcohol, or isopropanol is what it's called. You should use the highest percentage possible. I am lucky that I've worked in a chemistry lab, so I have access to high percentage, high purity alcohol. However, these pigments instead, as well as others like Neve Cosmetics, do not contain a binder. So you need to add something to the powder for it to stick to each other before you can use the alcohol to press it. And this is the type of pigments that we're gonna press today. Starting off with what you're gonna need, there are different methods that are out there using household items or natural oils or a few different things that you can use. I have even posted on my blog years ago my experience pressing Neve Cosmetics pigments with jojoba oil, and I would in general not recommend that because there's no preservative and it can be setting off bacterial or fungal breeding into the product, and I have found a more safe and professional way of doing it. However, talking about safety, this is not a tutorial on how to make your own makeup to sell. Absolutely, these are my pigments that I am pressing for myself, my own use, and I monitor these closely. If they change color or if they smell funny or if anything changes in their consistency, they're going. This is for my own use. I am also not using gloves, which if you're making makeup for anyone else, please use gloves. Make sure your environment is wiped down, sterile, clean with antibacterial soap and alcohol and everything. But this is not the case. This is just me in my beauty room making or pressing pigments that I want to use more often. Now, for what you will need or what I will use, I have purchased over the years from TKB Trading. They are a wholesale type of website with all the micas and all the products you need to make cosmetics. They are an intermediary, but they sell to the public as well. And the best thing is they have kits for people like you and me who just want to have fun with makeup and want to create their own mineral makeup or press their makeup. So I would refer you to the website if you've ever been interested in experimenting with making your own makeup, mixing powders and things like that. But on the website, which is topic of today, they have a press kit, and the pressing kit contains everything, all the bases you need to make a pressed powder product. I have bought the pieces individually, but I will show you what you will need. Starting from the binder, they have a My Mix Press It binder medium, and this is a bigger bottle of 2 fluid ounces. I think in the kit you get a half fluid ounce, but it is plenty. Like, I've had this for years and it's only to here. You only need a few drops of this in your powder mix, and this contains isopropyl myristate, bisvinyl dimethicone, and copolymer and dimethicone. So it is a silicone base that you can use to bind your pigments together. In the kit, you also get a My Mix pressing powder, and that is a mix of the transparent powders that help the consistency and slip of your formula. You can play with those as well. I find that it is very difficult to formulate eyeshadows. Otherwise, we would all be doing it, of course. But you can experiment with that, adding that as well. But in my experience, powder products that are made for the consumer, so not micas, but a pigment that you buy from a company that you're supposed to use as a loose pigment, already contains mix of powders that help it adhere to the skin, even after using a let's say a glitter base or something like that. So I haven't added that to these eyeshadows today. However, if you're making eyeshadows or powders from scratch, from micas and minerals, then I would definitely add this mix that contains usually either talc or something that is talc free, but is the same idea. Some oxides that help with the slip or with the dilution of the pigment, because sometimes you don't want an extremely pigmented blush or things like that. So that is another thing that is in this kit. Then what you need is a little plastic bags. You don't need them, but this is the easiest way to make these products. You'll be adding everything in here and using it to mix it. You'll see in my tutorial. Then you'll need a tool. In the kit you have a few tools, but I use a spatula which is a flat side on one side and a little spoon on the other, again from my days in the lab. So this is very useful. You use it to mix, you use it to add products. You need a tool of sorts. Some people do it with bobby pins. Just make sure to sanitize them first and to remove the little plastic tip that is on a bobby pin. Otherwise that might actually react with your alcohol or with your mix. Then you'll need somewhere to put these eyeshadows. I have here a bag of 26mm round tin pans that I got from TKB Trading, which are included also in the kit, or there's the bigger size, which is the 36mm. Think some indie brands like Divina Cosmetics offer these, or also Sugarpill, I think, has 36mm pans. That is up to you, what you decide. I prefer smaller pans. They're easier to store, they fit more, and in general, what you get as a sample size from Tammy Tanuka fits in a 26mm pan, and you have some leftover space as well. Then you'll need alcohol. I have it here in my lab vial. This is isopropyl alcohol, as I said, and you should not use ethanol, you should not use acetone, you should not use any of those things. Every alcohol has different properties, and you want to use isopropanol because it is the less reactive and still very volatile. So it will evaporate quickly and it will not react with your mix. So that is kind of what you want, an inert base. To add the alcohol to our mixes, I'll be using a glass pipette. You can see here, also from the lab, with a little plastic, what is it called? Blowy thingy? I don't know, balloon. There you go, with a little plastic balloon. But you can use a syringe that you can find at the drugstore, one of these plastic syringes. You just take the needle out and you just use that to add drops. And then finally, you'll need to press it. TKB Trading has a great pressing tile unit. It is very pretty, but also extremely handy because it has the right size piece of acrylic plastic down here, and on top it just has a jewel that is very easy to press on. So this is very useful. And you can use this or a coin and your finger. That is also very fine. I've done it before. This is just very handy, and it comes in the kit. And then to make the pattern on your eyeshadow just prettier and not have the kitchen paper pattern on it, they also sell a pressing ribbon. Now you can see here it's a bit disgusting, but that's because these pigments stain. So I've washed this in the washing machine a few times. These stains don't come off. And this is just a plastic ribbon, as you can see here. Just a regular ribbon, and you can use it to press your eyeshadow. You'll see everything in the tutorial coming out shortly. All of the kits that you can get from TKB Trading, I think it's around $16 on their website. I'll link it down below. This is not sponsored, or they haven't ever sent me anything. It's more like, this is what I use. I've been liking using this, and yeah, I want to show you how I do this. I can maybe spoiler how they look right now. I am wearing one of them today. I keep them here in a little palette of mine, and you can see the top 8 up here are shimmery Tammy Tanuka pigments. I used today this shade right here, which is Dragon Rider of the Sun. No, Golden Dragon Rider of the Hunt. Sorry, the names are difficult. And I literally applied it with my brush, sprayed some Fix Plus after I picked up the product, and foiled it on my lid. This is the result with no glitter glue or anything. So much easier and much more similar to use than any other shimmer that you might have. Very well, I've blabbed long enough. Let's get into this tutorial that is already forever long. I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get into it. I have prepped here everything I need. All of my Tammy Tanuka pigments are right here, ready to go. Here I have an empty palette where I have already placed the eyeshadow that I have pressed to test before I started doing this and showing you guys. I wanted to make sure that it worked well. So I would say let's get started. There are a lot of different pigments here that I want to try out. I want to leave the chromatics, which are these ones with the C, for last because they are the most precious, let's say. This one is the eyeshadow I have already pressed, Mother Nature, so this is empty. And yeah, I'll start with this blue one, and this one has a bit of a glitter actually. So I am going to start by transferring this. Look at the multi shift of this, it's beautiful. I have tried using it in a powder form like this, and it was actually quite difficult to use, I found, because of all the glitters. It was quite chunky. I'm gonna transfer this completely to my little pouch, and these sample sizes from Tanuka actually don't hold that much product. My previous pressed was barely to the top, or not even to the top, but we'll see how much we can make. This is the amount that you have here. It's not a lot, so I'm gonna add 3 drops of the Press It binder. This process is really a trial and error, and a little bit of what you think will work, because yeah, every formula is different. This is indeed formulation, let's say. I'm gonna close this well, and I'm gonna start mixing it together until it actually, yeah, comes together nicely. This method with these little bags is easier than putting it in a container and mixing it, because you don't have the mess. The previous one I mixed directly in the pan, and oh my god, it was terrible. It came really out like a mess. Here I just want to make sure that everything is nice and mixed in together with the press medium, the binding medium, because that will make sure that the whole eyeshadow will bind together nicely. Then, in the pan, I am going to put 1 drop of the binder, like so, This is very oily and messy actually, usually. And then I am going to put a bit of alcohol on the bottom to start my pressing adventure. What I'm gonna do with my spatula is I'm gonna mix, I hope you guys can see what is happening, mix the binder and dissolve it in the alcohol. Like this. And then open my little bag. And I am going to make sure I scrape off from the side all the product that is left over. That stuck to the side of the bag. And I hope you can see how this is now a chunky product. It's not a very fine powder anymore. Let me center myself. I am going to start putting this in the pan. And now what is left to do is to just flatten it out. It will have mixed in the meantime with the alcohol. And you see there isn't really much in here at all. Usually when I press micas or loose eyeshadows, they're full to the rim, so that when you press it, you actually get a nice full eyeshadow. But these are sample sizes, so you don't get much in here. I'm going to lift it and drop it and turn it, and this helps uniform the mix and flatten the eyeshadow to the bottom. I hope you can see how beautiful this is now. I see there are still some chunks, so I'm gonna try to break them down with the spatula. Ideally, you want to get the smoothest structure here as possible, so that then your eyeshadow will also have a very smooth structure. Because this is a homemade formula, of course, it will never be as perfect as a formula that has been tested and made in a professional lab. But then again, I am just doing this so that I will actually get some use out of these instead of just them lying in a corner, because they are loose pigments and I don't use them very often. Again, let's distribute the product evenly in the pan. And now there are two things you can do. If you're in a rush, you can try to press it immediately, but then I would use the ribbon that I have here, and then a tissue on top, and then the presser on top, because it will be very full of alcohol. What I like to do is let it sit for a little bit and let the alcohol evaporate. So then we will come back and press it later. In the meantime, I'll do the same things with a few more shades. You can see that this one was definitely more product in this one than in the previous one. So here I'm gonna go in two steps. I'm gonna first mix and press this bunch and then put in the rest, because it's important also to, you know, just go in stages and make sure you mix everything nicely together. And you can see that now it's quite dry, and I'm gonna add a little bit of alcohol to make the product more mixable and blendable into each other. You can see how now this changed completely the texture of the powder. And alcohol isn't bad to add because it will in the end evaporate. The only problem that I have found with pressing eyeshadows, if you add alcohol to clays, they have a harder time getting rid of it because they absorb all the water, and alcohol, when it's impure, it contains water usually, and it changes really their consistency a lot. I'm also going to try, of course, to get as much product as possible in there and the least possible on the tissue. This is a messy process, of course, as you can imagine. You're dealing with powders, but it's definitely worth it. In my experience, at least. You can see how beautiful and multi-chrome or dual-chrome this product, this pigment is. And of course, this is experiments, guys. You don't know what is gonna happen. You can have a little bit of a good idea, but you never know what's actually gonna happen with this. This has now a nice consistency. It's quite thick. There's not too much alcohol in here. I am still going to let it dry a little before I press it, because I want to keep as much product in there, of course, and via the alcohol, some of it might come off onto the ribbon or onto a tissue. So there's much more product here than in the previous one, but still you can see it is not filled to the rim, and I hope you can see the beautiful reflects of it. The lighting isn't ideal here, is it? Here we go, second one done. And I am keeping them like this onto my just palette together with the name of it. The reason why I don't write the names in advance on my pans is that when you deal with alcohol, it might spill over and then you're pretty much erasing it, so I write it always afterwards. You can see that here a lot of the alcohol has evaporated already, so we're gonna press this one soon, but I'm gonna do at least one more before I do that. These little bags are one-time use, so I'm not reusing them at all. You can tell that you have put the right amount of binder and that the powder is mixed well enough when you can see that it comes off of the side. It's not, at the beginning it is just everywhere in the bag when you play with it, and then here you can see that, for example, this is all transparent, so here we have a good mix of the product with the binder. Sometimes you can see here, for example, a big spot, that's where the binder has stuck to the wall, but you can scrape all of that product off, and the product will come off in little chunks. Oh, that was a lot of binder. My mistake. Pressing pigments is so satisfying just to see at the beautiful colors that they turn into when they are mixed with alcohol and a binder, which is kind of what you do when foiling anyways, when you wet them. This also doesn't have a lot of product in here. But then again, when do you ever pan an eyeshadow, I would say, so this should be enough to get me through some time. Now, I would say this one is probably ready to be pressed. You can see in the reflection that it's quite dry. I am going to get the ribbon and the spot that is not so dirty. Unfortunately, this I have also washed in the washing machine, but these stain, so it's just ugly, but it works. I will place the ribbon on the pan and take my pressing tool, which I love because you can get a lot of pressure with this, and place it, making sure with my fingers that I am in the center of the pan, squeeze it and make uniform pressure. You can see that the color that's coming out of the side, that is the seeping alcohol, is colored. So you lose a little bit of product like this, but you get a nice press. I often stand up for this, but for the sake of this demonstration, I will not. So unfortunately, there was still a lot of alcohol on it, and you can see that some product came off of here. I'm gonna try to get it off with my spatula and place it back in the pan. I think this might also be because there is so much glitter in this product. However, we have a first press, and you can see there is a little bit of a pattern in the eyeshadow already, but we're gonna press it again, give it some time to dry, a few hours probably now, and press it again. So this also tells me that the other eyeshadows are still quite wet, so I'm gonna give them a bit more time, and in the meantime prepare more. Next one is Dragon Rider in the Sun. Because I feel like there isn't a lot of product in this one, I just added 2 drops, maybe 2.5 of binder. Too much binder can also be negative, of course. You have eyeshadows that crease or that don't transfer. Of course, proper formulas have a better binder than this. This is quite a standard one that is based on isopropyl myristate and dimethicone copolymer, bisphenol, dimethyl copolymer, and dimethicone. And professional brands, of course, tailor their binders to their formula, so it is a little bit more professional in this. This is again just myself trying to make a better use of my beautiful pigments that I have here. There, all of my pigment is nicely mixed with the binder. This is definitely a big heap actually of products, so I'm going to be very careful trying not to get it out. I'm pressing it down to mix in with the alcohol, and I will add some more just to make sure I can mix it properly. This is, I hope you can see it, one of the most beautiful things I've seen in my life. Here is how the pigments look as they are drying. You can see some beautiful shifts. I definitely picked quite some staple greens. There is one more that is inside the pan that there is one more inside the palette that I already pressed, and then I still have these 2, which are the multi-chromes. And I want to wait to press these before, when I see how these other guys worked out, and if it is possible to press them without ruining them. So let's let them sit for a little bit, and I'll come to press them again. See you guys. It has now been approximately 3 hours, and everything looks much more dry. I think the light is also better simply because it's now almost midnight, 11:30. And if you hear anything, that's my husband brushing his teeth, but I forgot that I had these waiting, so we're now pressing them, starting again from this blue glitter one that we did before, again with my presser and the ribbon. well, almost nothing came out here, and now I have a nicely pressed shadow. Again, I will check tomorrow if these are yeah, swatch nicely or something, because for now I still want all the alcohol to come out. I'm gonna go to the next shade and do the same thing. I'm really curious about this one, because it's the less shimmery of all, and it might be the one that gets, I don't know, ruined the most. We will see. And here they are. They will sit here trying to evaporate the rest of the alcohol until tomorrow, and then tomorrow I'll name them, put them in the palette, and swatch them all. Here we go. We have spent the night. These guys have dried out overnight. This is in the new morning, and I'm gonna swatch them to see if I succeeded in pressing them. My arm is clean, no primer, no nothing, and it's dry, same as my fingers. I'm gonna take out some wipes to clean my finger, and then I will dry them on a tissue so that I don't have wet fingers, because that sometimes can mess with the swatches. Very well, here we go. This is Subduing Gaze. The Naughty Novice. This seems a little bit gritty, as if the binder didn't blend well, but all the shimmer and the reflection is there, so it is definitely possible to use it, and the fallout in the pan is minimal. Next one up is Golden Dragon Rider of the Hunt. This is definitely less gritty than the previous one. It seems to have formed a film on my finger, if you can see it, more than on my arm. And then I can probably scrape off some product like this. Yeah, there you go. That part is the part that has formed the film, and that is due to the binder probably. So this isn't an extreme success, but I think it still works pretty awesome. Next one up is Dragon Rider in the Sun. This is this beautiful glittery duochrome. Yes. You might remember when I tried these on Instagram stories for the first time, they didn't stick to my arm at all when I tried swatching them directly from the pot. So I really needed a base to swatch them, because they wouldn't stick on my arm. So this is already infinitely better. I would still think of foiling them or using a glitter base underneath, just to make sure, because they are originally loose pigment and a homemade formula of binder. So yeah, I would still be careful, but it's definitely a great improvement, and they're just gorgeous. Next one up, Keeper of a Heartbeat. This is a little bit gritty as well. Again, you can improve on all of these formulas, of course, if you tweak a little and you feel like playing with it. But to me, it seems like everything is working pretty well. You can still see all the reflects. These two are actually quite similar, but a different finish. And this one has a little bit of a darker base to the shift. Then we have the longest title of them all, She Who Keeps the Secret of the Green Flame. This I was afraid that the base color wouldn't show up actually because of the clay-like structure I saw, and this isn't swatching that great. Let me see if I can get some more on here, or if I have to use a brush, that is also a possibility. Yeah, so the glitter is definitely coming up. The base color, not so much. Now for comparison, I want to see if I can get still something from the cap. But it looks like it was not that pigmented to start with. Last one is the Show Off. This nice chartreuse shade. And this is a nice satin shimmer. And it seems to have come off similarly. I had a bit of a doubt with these last two textures, as I mentioned, because they didn't look as metallic, so maybe they wouldn't work as well, but they seem to have translated well enough. So here they are. For completeness, I will also swatch Mother Nature, which is the one that I pressed previously. That was my test press to see if it worked. And this is pressed in a bit of a different formulation with the binder added in the pan. So it didn't come out as great, but you can see that you can use it. And it swatches way better than if I had to use the loose version. Here they are in all their beauty. So overall, I think that the more metallic and shimmery shades worked well. This one worked particularly well, and it really depends on the finish of the eyeshadow. And they all have different finishes, because this one is very glittery, this one is very glittery, this one is more satin, this one is a glitter with a metallic, and these have a lower amount of glitter, and this one is more of a metallic straight up. Now what is left for me to do is to press the two chromatic ones, the multi-chromes, but I will do this another time. I hope to have showed you guys that it is possible to press these eyeshadows. It will work well, and I will create a few looks with these now that I have an easier time using them. I can't wait to use this shade and this shade. I think I might even, yeah, I just love these. They look amazing. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Let me know down below what your thoughts are, and if you ever used some technique like this to press loose pigments, and what was your experience. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!